Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Your Daily Dose, the podcast where we talk about health care, and all of those things that can sometimes feel confusing, overwhelming, and honestly, a little terrifying. I'm so glad you're here. And today we're talking about something that I know almost every single person listening has done. Here's the scenario. You wake up with a headache. You think, that's annoying. So you do what any reasonable person does. You grab your phone, you open Google, and you type headache. And suddenly Google says, well, it could be stress. It could be dehydration. It could be allergies. It could be lack of sleep. And then for some reason, Google feels the need to continue. It could also be a brain tumor. It could be an aneurysm. It could be a rare neurological disorder that affects approximately 4 people in the entire world. And somehow that is the article we click. We've all been there and done it. Not the article that says you probably need to drink some water. No. We click woman with mild headache discovers extremely rare condition after searching symptoms online. And suddenly we're sitting on the couch thinking, well, this is probably it. You know, that sounds so silly, but I've been in one of those moments. So today we're talking about Dr. Google. And let me be clear right from the beginning. The internet is not the enemy. Google is not evil. Looking up health information does not automatically make you a difficult patient. In fact, I'm a huge believer in people learning about their health. I want you to ask questions. I want you to understand your diagnosis. I want you to know what medications you're taking. I want you to be able to recognize when something doesn't sound right. And I also want you to be an active participant in your health care. But there's a difference between being informed and being awake at 2:17 in the morning, reading a discussion board from 2009, convinced that a twitch in your left eye means you have 6 months to live. And I'm not exaggerating, you know it. And friends, we've all been there. So today we're going to talk about it. When online health information can actually be helpful, how to recognize trustworthy health information, how to spot the nonsense, why symptoms can have dozens of possible causes, and why you should not diagnose yourself based on the third comment under a TikTok video, and how to bring information you find online to your healthcare provider without feeling embarrassed or being made to feel like you're challenging them. And throughout today's episode, we're going to play a little game. It's called Google or Garbage. I'll give you a health claim, and we're going to decide together, is it reliable? Is it misleading? Is it missing important context? Or is it just complete and utter garbage? So grab your coffee, grab your water, maybe don't Google every symptom you hear during this episode, and let's talk about it. Let's start by being honest. Why do we Google our symptoms? Because healthcare can be scary. Sometimes you're worried. Sometimes you have a symptom you've never experienced before. I know I can definitely relate, especially as I'm moving through menopause. Sometimes your doctor's appointment isn't for another 3 weeks. Don't you love it when your primary says, we need to refer you to this specialist, but they can't see you until 2 months from now? Sometimes it's Saturday night. Sometimes you're sitting there thinking, do I need to go to the emergency room, or did I just eat something that didn't agree with me? And the truth is, the internet is available immediately, 24 hours a day, no appointment required, no waiting room, no clipboard, no insurance card. You can ask Google anything. And Google never looks at you and says, well, you really should have made an appointment for that. The problem is, Google doesn't actually know you. Google doesn't know your medical history. It doesn't know your medications. It doesn't know your age, nor does it know your family history. It doesn't know what happened before your symptoms started. It doesn't know whether your headache started after you spent 8 hours staring at a computer screen. It doesn't know that you've had 3 hours of sleep, and it definitely doesn't know that you drank approximately half a cup of water today and 4 cups of coffee. Google just knows that you typed headache and tired. And based on those two words, it is prepared to show you the entire medical encyclopedia. And here's something really important: symptoms are not diagnosis. Let me say that again. Symptoms are not your diagnosis. A headache can happen for many reasons. Fatigue can happen for many reasons. Dizziness can happen for many reasons. Ugh, the dreaded nausea can happen for many reasons. And this is one of the biggest problems with searching symptoms online. The internet can give you a list of possibilities, but it often cannot tell you which possibility applies to you. And sometimes that list includes common things and very rare, scary things. But our brains don't always focus on the common thing. No, 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 no. Our brains say scroll past dehydration, scroll past stress, scroll past lack of sleep. Ah, there it is, rare disorder. And that's what we do, right? Because fear is powerful. And when you're already worried about your health, scary information tends to stick. I want to introduce you to Sarah. Sarah is 38 years old. She works full time. She has 2 children. She is extremely busy. She's also tired. She hasn't slept well in weeks. She's drinking coffee and Diet Cokes all day and forgetting to drink water. One afternoon, Sarah notices that her heart feels like it's beating a little faster than normal. So naturally, she Googles, why is my heart beating fast? The first few results say things like stress, anxiety, possibly caffeine, exercise, dehydration, or a fever. It even says certain medications can speed up your heart rate. Then Sarah keeps scrolling, and suddenly she's reading about serious heart rhythm disorders. Now Sarah is terrified. So what happens? Her anxiety increases and her heart starts beating faster. How many of you can relate? Now she notices the faster heartbeat. She becomes even more anxious. Her heart beats even faster. Now she's checking her pulse every 4 minutes. By bedtime, Sarah has diagnosed herself with 3 different heart conditions. She texted her sister, she sent her husband an article, and she's already planning what she's going to say when she calls the doctor. The next day, Sarah sees her healthcare provider. The provider asks some questions. How much caffeine are you drinking? And her answer is a lot. How much water are you drinking? And her answer is honestly, not much. How have you been sleeping? Well, actually, terribly. How has your stress been? And Sarah starts laughing because she realizes, oh, maybe all of these things matter. And here's the important part: that does not mean Sarah was wrong for paying attention to her symptoms. No, it does not mean she was silly for looking for information. Not at all. It means that the internet gave her possibilities, and her healthcare provider helped put those possibilities into context. And context really matters. Now, before we spend the entire episode making fun of Dr. Google, let's give the internet some credit because online health information can be incredibly useful. In fact, access to health information can help people become more engaged in their own health care. And I encourage that. Maybe you've just received a new diagnosis. Maybe your doctor said you have hypertension, and you get home and think, Okay, I know that means high blood pressure, but what does that actually mean for me? Looking for reliable information can help you prepare questions. Maybe you've been prescribed a new medication. You want to understand, what is this medication for? What are common side effects? And are there important warnings? How should I take it? Those are completely reasonable questions. Maybe someone in your family receives a diagnosis. You want to better understand what they're going through, how you can help them. Maybe you're preparing for surgery. Maybe you're trying to understand a test your doctor has ordered. Maybe you're trying to find reliable information about eating healthy, exercise, sleep, vaccines, or disease prevention. The internet can be an incredible educational tool, but here's the key: where you get your information matters, because online, everybody has a microphone. The person with 30 years of medical training has a microphone, and so does somebody sitting in their car saying, "You guys, nobody wants you to know this, but I discovered the secret to curing everything with lemons and cayenne pepper." I have seen so many of those. And sometimes the second person has better lighting, so they get more views. We know all about social media popularity. It doesn't equal accuracy. A million views does not equal truth. A person saying doctors don't want you to know this does not automatically mean that you have stumbled upon some hidden secret. Sometimes doctors don't know about it because, well, it's nonsense. Okay, it's time for a round of Google or garbage. Here's the claim: if you have a headache, your body is telling you that you're severely dehydrated. What do you think? Reliable? Misleading? Is it missing context? Or is it garbage? The answer is, it's missing context. It's missing extra information. Dehydration can absolutely contribute to headaches, but not every headache means you're dehydrated. Headaches can have many causes: stress, muscle tension, it could be a migraine, illness, lack of sleep, change in caffeine intake, even eye strain, and many other possibilities. So if someone says every headache means you're dehydrated, that's too simple. And healthcare is often, well, let's say it's never simple. It is something you're going to hear me say a lot. Simple explanations can be helpful, but oversimplified explanations can be misleading. There is a difference. So let's say you're going online. How do you know where to look? Here are some things I personally like to consider. First, who is providing the information? Is it a government health organization, a respected medical organization, maybe a major hospital or a school, an academic medical center, maybe a professional organization, a university? Then, is the information written or reviewed by qualified healthcare professionals? Those are good signs. You also want to pay attention to whether the information is current. How old is this information? Because healthcare changes weekly, even daily. Recommendations change, research changes. What we believed 10 or 15 years ago may not reflect what we know today. So check the date. And please, if the article was written in 2007, maybe don't panic based on it in 2026. The date and the time matter so much. Another thing to consider is the purpose of the website. Are they trying to educate you, or are they trying to sell you 17 bottles of supplements? Because if the article says, here are the 10 signs that your body is full of mysterious toxins, and then at the bottom of the article, they just happen to sell a $79.99 super mega ultimate detox package, we might need to pause. They're trying to sell a product. That doesn't automatically mean every product is bad. Don't get me wrong. But you should always ask, who benefits if I believe this information? That's a great question. My go-tos online are first Medline Plus. This is a medical search engine that is created and kept up by the Library of Medicine. And you can look up anything there. It really is a patient search engine. It's great. Then it's the Mayo Clinic, the Cleveland Clinic. I also go to the National Institutes of Health, and often people call that the NIH, and the Centers for Disease Control, and we call that the CDC. Okay, let's talk about some red flags because the internet is full of them. So, red flag number one, these are things that you should look out for. Okay. So, the red flag number one is doctors don't want you to know this. Really? All doctors? Every doctor? Everywhere? They all got together and decided not to tell us that eating 3 grapes at midnight would cure our arthritis? I don't think so. I mean, come on. Sometimes healthcare professionals disagree. Now, that's the truth. Research can evolve, new discoveries happen, and medical professionals do have opinions. But broad conspiracy, like all the doctors got together to keep this information from us, that's not real, guys. Okay, red flag number two. This one thing cures everything. If something claims to cure cancer, diabetes, depression, arthritis, baldness, your marriage, your credit score, and apparently your dog's seasonal allergies, that is a horrible one. We have tried so many things with my dog Scout. We have bought so many products and we haven't found one that worked yet. So we may need to investigate a little more. Healthcare rarely has one magical answer for everything. Okay, red flag number three. Anecdotes presented as proof. Let me get into this and explain it. You know the kind of posts I'm talking about, where people give testimonials, such as, I took this supplement for 3 days and my life completely changed. And listen, I'm not saying that person is lying. Maybe they genuinely did feel better, but one person's experience does not automatically prove that something works for everyone. A person's story can be valuable, but a story is not the same thing as strong scientific evidence. Okay, so let's talk about Michael. Michael is 57. He's been dealing with joint pain. He is frustrated. He feels like he's tried everything. Then one day, Michael sees a video online. A very confident man is standing in front of a bookshelf. He has a lab coat on. Now, I don't know where he got the lab coat, but he's got it. But apparently, the lab coat convinced Michael. And the man says, I have discovered the number one natural cure for joint pain. Michael is intrigued and he listens. Of course he does. He's in pain. The man goes on to say that doctors don't want you to know about this. Strike one, red flag one. The man says pharmaceutical companies are terrified. Strike two, if this were true, they would be all over this. The man then says this supplement works for everyone. Strike three. But Michael is hurting. And when you're hurting, when you're desperate for relief, when you've been frustrated for a long time, you can become vulnerable to promises. So Michael buys the supplement. It's expensive. He takes it for 2 months. Nothing changes. Then he finally goes to his doctor and he mentions it. And his doctor says, let's talk about what you've been taking. And that conversation becomes important because supplements can have ingredients that matter. They may interact with your prescription or even over-the-counter medications. They may not do what they promise, and they can cost a lot of money. The lesson here isn't that Michael was foolish. Absolutely not. Michael was looking for help. I get it. I've been Michael. He was trying to feel better. The lesson is that when people are desperate, promises can sound especially convincing. And that is exactly why we have to learn how to evaluate health information. This is one of the most important parts of today's conversation. Symptoms can have many causes. Let's take something simple: fatigue, being tired. If you Google, "Why am I tired all of the time?" get comfortable because you're about to read for the next 6 hours. I'm serious. Fatigue can be connected to poor sleep, stress, depression, anxiety, certain medications, anemia, thyroid issues, sleep disorders, infections, chronic illness, lifestyle factors, and more. So imagine searching "I'm tired all the time." Google is going to give you a list, and you immediately decide you have the most serious condition on the list. But maybe you have been sleeping 4 hours a night. Maybe you're caring for an aging parent. Maybe you have a newborn. Maybe you're working 2 jobs. Maybe you have untreated sleep apnea. Maybe you're taking a medication that causes drowsiness. This is why your healthcare provider asks you questions, because the questions matter. When did this start? What else is happening? Did it come on suddenly? Has it gotten worse? What medications are you taking? How are you sleeping? What is your daily life like? What is your medical history? Is there anything in your family history that matters? Those details help create a picture. Google doesn't have the whole picture. It has your search term. And sometimes your search terms are, let's be honest, not exactly detailed. Tired, weird pain, left side, help. And then we expect the internet to provide a diagnosis. That's not happening. Okay, I want you to meet 62-year-old Linda. One afternoon, Linda notices a strange pain in her side. She immediately searches online. The search results include muscle strain, digestive issue, kidney problems, serious illness. Several things Linda has never even heard of. And naturally, she begins researching the scariest of the possibilities. Within an hour, Linda has read 20 articles. She is now utterly terrified. She calls her daughter. Her daughter says, "Mom, what did you do today?" Linda says, "Nothing unusual." Her daughter asks, "Didn't you help your friend move furniture?" Linda pauses. "Oh, well, yes, I did do that." Now, I'm not saying every pain is caused by moving furniture. Let me be clear. And Linda should still pay attention to symptoms and seek medical care when appropriate. But this just illustrates something important. Context matters. The details matter. Sometimes the information you need isn't found by searching a symptom. Sometimes it's found by asking, what was happening before this started? Now, we have to talk about social media because social media has changed health information dramatically. And again, there are wonderful healthcare professionals creating excellent content online. There are doctors, nurses, pharmacists, dietitians, researchers, therapists, public health professionals. There are people doing an amazing job making complicated information easier to understand. And I absolutely love those people. That is one of the reasons I care so much about health literacy. But social media also has a problem. Anybody can say anything on social media, and sometimes the most confident person sounds like the most knowledgeable person. But confidence is not credentials. A person can look directly into the camera and say, "This is the truth." That doesn't make it the truth. They can have millions of followers, and that doesn't make it the truth. They can have beautiful graphics, but that doesn't make it the truth. And they can use words like research shows and then never tell you what research. So, friends, if somebody says studies prove, you're allowed to ask, which studies? That's not being difficult. That's being curious. And let me just say, this is why I direct you to reputable, trustworthy online resources. And that's where I get the information that I share with you. So it's time for round 2 of Google or Garbage. I love this one. Natural means safe. What do we think? Reliable, misleading, missing context or information, or is this garbage? The answer is misleading. Something being natural does not automatically mean it's safe for everyone. And something being manufactured doesn't automatically mean it's dangerous. There are natural substances that can harm you, and there are medications developed and tested to help treat disease. The word natural is not a guarantee, and the word chemical is not automatically something to fear. You are a chemical factory, friends. Our body is made of chemicals. Water is a chemical substance. Did you know that? Oxygen is a chemical substance. Oxygen is a chemical substance. So when somebody says, I don't put chemicals in my body, and I've probably said something to the effect of that, but I always think, well, I have some news for you, even for myself. The question is not simply, is it natural? The better questions are, what is it? What does it do? And is there evidence supporting its use? What are the risks of taking it? Could it interact with my medications? Is it appropriate for me? Not my sister, not my friend, not my dad, but me. You deserve to understand your health. You deserve to ask questions. You deserve explanations in language you understand. And you should never feel ashamed because you wanted to learn. Before I continue, I want to take a quick moment to thank one of our sponsors of Your Daily Dose. Whether you're buying your first home, selling a home, relocating, or just starting to think about what might be next, the process can feel very overwhelming. And just like healthcare, real estate has its own language that can sometimes make you think, wait, what does that even mean? Well, that's why having someone you trust to guide you through the process matters so much. Brian Daly with the Miller Grant team is ready to help you navigate the buying or selling process and make sure you understand what's happening every step of the way. Because big decisions are stressful enough. You shouldn't have to feel confused too. And now let's get back to today's episode. Here's the next claim for Google or garbage. If a treatment worked for someone else, it should work for you too. What do we think? The answer is misleading. People are different. Our bodies are different. Our medical histories are different. Our medications are different. Two people can have the very same illness or diagnosis and still have different treatment plans. This is why borrowing someone else's medication is a terrible idea. This is also why you shouldn't assume that because your neighbor lost 20 pounds doing something, that it is necessarily safe or appropriate for you. Your coworker might say, I started taking this supplement and I feel amazing. Well, that's great. I'm serious. That's wonderful for them. But before you start taking it, ask questions, especially if you have health conditions or take medications. Healthcare is not one size fits all. So we have to keep perspective. Let's talk about one of my favorite ways to use online health information, preparing for a healthcare appointment. This can actually be incredibly helpful. Let's say you've been diagnosed with something new. You can look at reliable information and write down questions. For example, what is this condition? What does it mean? What are my treatment options? What symptoms should I watch for? Are there lifestyle changes that might help? You can bring those questions with you, or maybe you're starting a new medication. Instead of randomly searching, is this medication going to ruin my life? No, you can look for reliable information about what it's used for, how it's generally taken, what are common side effects, and even warnings. What are some questions to ask your pharmacist or your doctor? And then make a list. And please write things down because there is something about sitting in a healthcare office that can cause your brain to completely shut down. You walk in with 12 questions. The provider walks in and says, how are you? And suddenly you say, fine. And then you leave. You get to your car and remember all 12 questions. So write them down. Bring a notebook. Use the Notes app on your phone, whatever works best for you. Now, let's talk about something important. For some people, searching symptoms online can become a cycle. You notice something, you Google it, you become scared, then you notice more sensations because you're paying closer attention to your body. You Google those, you become more scared, and the cycle continues. This doesn't mean your symptoms aren't real. Let's be very clear about that. Your symptoms can be real, and anxiety can also cause you to feel more aware of physical sensations. Both things can exist at the same time. But if you find yourself spending hours every day searching symptoms, checking your body constantly, looking for reassurance, reading the same information over and over, and pretty much becoming more anxious instead of more informed, it may be time to step back. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is close the browser, take a breath, write down your concerns, and talk with a qualified healthcare professional, because there is a difference between researching for information. Before we jump back in, I want to take a moment to thank today's sponsor, Often Crop Insurance. Now, I want to talk about this one a little differently because this isn't just about insurance. It's about something a lot deeper. If you've ever worked the land, you already know this truth. You can do everything right and still not control what happens next. You can plant at the perfect time. You can care for every acre. You can watch the weather like it's part of your job, because it is. And still, a storm can roll in that you didn't ask for. A drought can stretch longer than anyone expected. A season can change in a way that changes everything. And when that happens, it's not just numbers on a page. It's your work. It's your time. It's your family stability. It's the thing you are counting on to carry you throughout the year. That's where Often Crop Insurance comes in. Not as a promise that nothing will go wrong, but as a partner that says if something does go wrong, you don't have to face it alone. Because real support in agriculture isn't about removing risk. It's about making sure one hard season doesn't take away everything you've built over many good ones. At Often Insurance, they understand that farming isn't just a business. It's a way of life that carries both pride and pressure. And their job is to help bring a little more stability to something that is, by nature, unpredictable. So if you're someone who knows what it means to depend on the land, and you also know what it means to worry about what the next season might bring, I encourage Often Crop Insurance. They're there to help you plan for the unknown so you can keep focusing on what you do best. Because you can't control the weather, but you can choose who stands with you when it changes. Thank you to Often Crop Insurance for supporting your daily dose and the people who keep showing up season after season. And now, let's get back to the episode. Okay, last one. Google or garbage. Are you ready? You should never question your healthcare provider because they are the experts. Ooh, nope. Nope. The answer is garbage. Your healthcare provider may have medical expertise, and hopefully you're working with someone you trust, but you are the expert on you. You know what you're experiencing. You know your body. You live in it. You know your life. You know what your symptoms feel like, and good health care should always be a partnership. You're allowed to ask, why are you recommending this? Are there other options? What are the benefits and the risks? What happens if I wait? And can you explain that in a different way? Can you write that down for me? I found something online. Can we talk about it? Those are such good questions. And if someone makes you feel embarrassed for asking a reasonable question, well, that says something about the communication in that healthcare situation or relationship. You deserve to understand your health. You deserve to ask questions, and you deserve explanations in language you understand. And you should never feel ashamed because you wanted to learn. So let's wrap this up. Google can be helpful. The internet can give us access to incredible health information. It can help us prepare for appointments, understand our diagnosis, learn about medications, Find questions to ask. Connect with reliable resources. But Google cannot examine you. It cannot listen to your heart. It cannot see your facial expressions. It cannot ask the right follow-up questions based on your individual situation. It doesn't know your entire medical history, and it definitely cannot replace a conversation with a qualified healthcare professional. So the next time you have a symptom and you feel your fingers moving toward that search bar, I want you to pause, ask yourself, am I looking for information or am I looking for reassurance? And is this a reliable source? Does this information actually apply to me? And perhaps most importantly, why am I reading an article about a disease that affects 3 people in the world? So, everyone, the internet is a wonderful tool, but like any tool, we have to learn how to use it. Don't be afraid to learn. Don't be afraid to ask questions, and don't be afraid to research. Don't let Dr. Google convince you that a mild headache means you need to update your will. I'm serious. Use the internet to become informed, not terrified. Use what you learn to ask better questions. And remember, your healthcare journey should be a conversation. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. And remember, you don't have to understand everything all at once. You don't have to become a medical expert overnight. You just need to know that you are allowed to ask questions. You're allowed to seek information. And you're allowed to say, can you help me understand this? Because that is a powerful question. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Your Daily Dose. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love for you to share it with someone who has ever Googled a symptom and immediately planned their own funeral. And if that's you, no judgment here. We've all done it. We've all been there. So until next time, take care of yourself and take care of each other. And maybe, just maybe, put the phone down before you search that next symptom. This has been Your Daily Dose, making health information a little easier to understand, one conversation at a time.